All right, since rape is something that's timely right now in the news, I wanted to have somebody on that knows a little something about it. Alaina Odessa is on right now, and you're a graduate from A&T, right?
I am. I got my
Okay.
master's degree from A&T Aggie Pride.
Cool. And so now you're in Texas. Now tell us, what is your experience dealing with rape? What's your story?
Well, it happened to me when I was 14 years old, and it was a close family, not so much a family member, but my mother's boyfriend, who had been in my life since I was 2 years old. And, I mean, he had just been a constant, a staple. And the first opportunity that he got to take advantage of me, he did. My mother had gone out of town for work, which was something that she never really did. And she just kind of asked him to come in and look after me and my brother just to make sure, that everything was okay. Not to stay there, so to speak, but just to, kind of, um, just mark the territory, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, he came over, and I can remember that was when Bartles and James, the wine coolers, had just come out. And he came over with some wine coolers. And he asked me if, since my mom was out of town, if I, kind of wanted to just sneak and try them. And I was like, yeah, and I mean, and I trusted the process because he was the one who was offering. And so, I mean, they tasted good to me. They tasted like Kool-Aid. And so, I drank one and then I drank another one. And, by the time I drank that third one, it was just, I was out. And he just, he took advantage of the situation, and he set the situation up. And so, Chris, I just went through so much around that. The shame piece, the self-blame, the confusion of just really not even trusting myself anymore and my judge of character, because again, this was somebody that I felt totally comfortable around. And he
Right.
took advantage of, that trust and that comfort. And I mean, it was something that I have dealt with for years, just really trying to overcome that process and learn how to trust myself and trust men again, and just, forgive and let it go.
Now, did you say you also had a brother?
I do. I have a younger brother,
What what
7.
what was your brother doing at the time?
He was young. He was in the bed. He was he's 7 years younger than me. So me being 14, he was 7 at the time. So he was asleep.
So this happens, and you mentioned that afterwards the shame you felt. How long did that shame last for you?
Oh, good Lord. The shame, I don't know, if I want to just necessarily even leave it in just that component of the shame, because it was shame, it was fear, it was blame, it was just a whole myriad of, negative emotions and stuff that went along with that. And I was in my 30s, probably maybe 5 years ago, is when I first even told my mother of it. And, as early as 2 weeks ago, I was, because I mean, we suppress things like that happen, and you just kind of, push them. They go into the body. They go into the body to rest in that subconscious way, because the subconscious is the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, a couple weeks ago, I was calling a girlfriend of mine, and, I called her, got her voicemail, and, something was going on. 20 minutes later, I called her again, got her voicemail. Well, that third time that I called her fiance picked up the phone, who is a accomplished, very attractive, very articulate, intelligent African American man. And this was the type of person that my perpetrator was as well. And so, when he picked up the phone and he was like, Alaina, I saw that you called a few times, and, I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Well, I wasn't expecting that. And usually I'm able, when I know that I'm going to be in a situation with men that kind of fit that MO. And again, this isn't anything that I realized that I was doing, but I was able to kind of put my game face on, so I knew what was coming up, and I could deal with it. I was armored. Well, this particular situation, again, I'm calling my girlfriend. I was not expecting him to pick up the phone. And it was as soon as I heard his voice, as soon as he said good morning, my palms started sweating, my feet started sweating, my underarms felt like just a hive of bees was stinging me. And I just had this organic body reaction that I didn't understand. So, we talked for a couple minutes or whatever and got off the phone. And anyway, I was just praying after that. And I was like, Lord, what was that? And it was the incident, it was the fear. It was all that stuff coming up again for me. And so, to answer your question, it has been something that I have been dealing with quite actively for the past 10 years, because in between from 14 to probably 32, I was just in denial, kind of pushing it away I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to face it, the whole shame of, kind of going into that shell, because when that happens to a person, to a woman, to a man, when a person is sexually assaulted, it is an assault on the whole being. Because we are sexual beings. It's like a primordial part of us. It's not something that we grow into, and it's not something that we grow out of. We just are. It's part of our essence. And so it's an assault on the essence, the body, the mind, the emotions, the creativity, because I strongly believe that sexuality and creativity are, they emit from the same energy. And so, I shut down in all those ways. And then, I felt like I had the burden of proof on my shoulders too, not just that it happened, but that, is anybody going to believe me? If I bring it up, because in the media, this is what we see, you're not only assaulted in that initial experience, you're also assaulted in that burden of having to prove it. Will you be believed? Will you be validated? And so, oh gosh, it's just, it takes years. It takes years to process that.
So did you say that you were 32 when you first told your mom?
No, I was 32 when I first started dealing with it myself,
okay.
Kind of looking at it. And
when did you first tell somebody?
Somebody, probably, around that time when I first kind of started processing it myself, maybe around 34, I think was the first time I ever told anybody about it. The first time that I told my mother was 5 years ago. So I was 38?
Wow.
When I told my mother and my pop.
So 20 years passed before you said anything to anybody. And 24 years passed before you even said something to your mother, who was the person who was dating this man. Yes. Okay, so this is something. This part I would like to dive into, if you don't mind. But this is part of some of what we see in the news, as far as different people who are victims of rape, and it's one of those things where I'm sure if you've never been there, you don't understand. You've been there. Tell me why somebody would wait that long for saying something, like, and some people feel like it's convenient that some people kind of come out all at the same time when it comes to one particular person, whatever. Is it easier for somebody, you think, in those cases because somebody else said it, that it's easier for them now because they don't have to share the blame? Because you said you felt like you may feel some blame later on, or you may be blamed. What is it that makes somebody want to wait so long?
It's just not easy to process because, sexuality is such a part of our beingness. And so when your sexuality is assaulted, it is, again, I believe that is so connected to creativity. It's like your creativity is assaulted, your body, your emotions, your mind, everything just is all of a sudden under attack, and you you feel so victimized. And so when you see someone else have the courage to come forth, it gives you a courage, a type of camaraderie almost, if you will, like a sisterhood if you're a female, or a brotherhood, if you're a male. I can remember when Tyler Perry came out on the Oprah Winfrey Show and, shared what happened with him. And as a result, she filled the audience with men that had happened with. And so there definitely is something, there's a power, there's a safety in numbers, there's a peace that you start to have when you see other people kind of taking the reins of their own healing and, just voicing what happened. And you can tend to take refuge and comfort in that yourself, so I completely understand it.
It took you 24 years to say something to your mom, and you said you probably started actually dealing with it around 32. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So that was about 18 years after. What were some of the steps? And I'm sure that sharing it with people was one of the steps. So what are some of the other steps you used to kind of help heal from the situation?
Well, I stopped, really denying it. I came out of that, place of self-denial, kind of, I went through a phase where I so wished that it hadn't happened that I pushed it out. I blocked it out. And so I went back and I really started to face it. I started to, pray about it. And I asked God for help. I asked him to help me go into those tender places that had just been so broken, because I was really looking at that time just a wreck of my life. My finances were wrecked. I had this education, but I had so much trepidation, and fear, and just because I went into myself. And so, I wasn't creating, and I wasn't expressing, and I wasn't shining, and I wasn't being myself in relationship to the potential that I knew and believed that I had. And so, it was like to go back and just, really start to tell my own truth around it, no matter whether I was believed, no matter whether I was validated, no matter whether I was blamed or understood or, questioned or, ridiculed about it being my fault, or what did you do? What were you wearing? What did you, didn't you know better than to drink, Bartles and James, with a man in the house, but didn't you know? So it was like I came out of that space of, it happened to me, but I didn't want to continue to take ownership and responsibility of this other adult, 40-plus-year-old man's actions. And it was a plot. He came over knowing that that was what he wanted to do. I didn't. And so, again, the trust, the comfort, all of that stuff, I got sick and tired of not being able to relax in my own relationships and, just being scared of men. I mean, telling you about that body experience, that happened when my girlfriend's fiance picked up the phone. That was an organic response that my body had to the fear that I had around, in relationship to men that represented themselves in my mind in this way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wanted to be free.
Well, let's talk about relationships a little bit more and how you dealt with that personally. I noticed from the ages of 17 to about 20, maybe even 21, maybe even 21. I had a couple of serious girlfriends in that time, as well as different girls, I dated and may have went on a couple dates with or whatever. And a lot of them, they felt like I'm easy to talk to. And I found a lot of girls and even a lot of female friends were either raped or molested, at some point in their lives. And it was staggering to me because, you know, as I'm becoming a young adult, becoming a young man, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing how, you know, they were being impacted by this, and how this was impacting our relationship if we were dating, and if we weren't dating, I saw how it was impacting their personal lives. So, for instance, I'll give you a personal story for myself. My first girlfriend, who I lost my virginity to, she lost her virginity to me as well. She told me of a few different stories that she had going in her life. She was molested by two different guys. One of them was her mom's boyfriend. So similar to you, probably similar age as well. It's just that situation never went further than, you know, touching. But that's still something that was traumatic to her. I remember specifically, this may have been the third time ever I've ever had sex. Third time ever she'd ever had sex. We lost our virginities together, and afterwards she told me that she couldn't really enjoy it because she felt like she was being raped the entire time. Because all she could think about was those situations that happened to her when she was 8, 10, 12, 14. Did you have those same types of experiences? Could you not open up, whether it's communication, whether it's sexually, because all you could think about at that time was what was happening to you, what happened to you when you were 14?
No, I think that I had probably the opposite reaction to it. I think underneath it all, a power player, you know? And so when that happened to me, again, subconsciously, you know, it was like I made a deal with myself that I did not realize that I was making, that I would never be in that situation again. Nobody was going to take advantage of me. And so it was almost that mentality, I'll get you before you get me. And so I went, you know, like I said, the other direction with it. I mean, I had experiences with promiscuity. I had experiences where I was sexually active, but I was not intimately involved, you know? And so I would not really let myself connect in that way. And it affected my relationships like that.
So that's interesting that you say that, because when I mentioned earlier, I have people who I was friends with as well who, you know, went through rape. There's one friend comes to mind, and I was going to bring this up either way, but it seems like this was similar, but for her, it wasn't a mom's boyfriend. For her, it was her father. I think she was maybe 12 or 13 or whatever. And by the time we met, I think we were both like 19, both in college. By the time we had met, you know, she had 70 plus partners. I'm 28 now, so who knows where it is now. We're still cool, we're still friends, and I know she's changed a lot in her life. But, you know, she basically kind of had the same thing. It was, except where you seem like for you it was a power play, for her, that's how she felt loved. That was her way of feeling beautiful and accepted. What goes into that? Like, you know, talk about maybe your personal experiences as far as like what goes into the way that you think about that and kind of process that and turn it into something else. For her, like I said, she wanted to be beautiful. You said it was a power thing, you know, and maybe
it was a power thing, you know, but a lot of times for women in this twisted society that we're in, beauty is power, you know, for women. And so it was about that for me too. You know, I felt like this, so I never saw it coming. There was this, you know, to me, there's this plot going on the back end, you know, that if I ever get the opportunity to, you know, quote unquote, get her, I'm going to do it. And so it was, you know, for me, it was that. It was like, you will not get me, number one, I'll get you first. And number two, it was almost like if that happened that way and I didn't see it coming, then there's something going on too where I may be being admired by a man. You know, he may find me physically attractive, but I can't decipher that. You know, it's It's not something that I can really pick up on. And so it's almost like I would go in and I would, do my little investigation to find out, is this what he's thinking? Is this how he sees me? And if it was, then it was like that was the next. It taught me, and I mean it's a limiting belief, but it taught me that is the natural next step. If there is an attraction, then this is what people who are attracted to one another do. And you were asking me about that process of healing. It was like at 32, 31 going into 32, I just, when I went to God and I was asking him to help me, I decided I'm done. I'm not going to share myself this way anymore until I can heal around my understanding of it. And, in that process, I've been abstinent for 10 years, going on 11 years now. And it has been a cleansing, for me. It has been a redefining, a rebirth of me and of my sexuality and of my creativity and of my ability to hold the attention of a man, not because of my body or, because I'm giving him what I think he wants on the back end, but because there's some depth to me, and so it was like pulling away from that. It really opened up the space for me to get to know myself. At 14, you don't know, that's the tumultuous season. You have no knowledge, no self-knowledge. And so, I took that on, and then, at 32, I was able to take it off and just say, I will not I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust men, and I didn't trust myself around men either, because it was like, what is my motive? I had to relearn. I had to get to know me and find out what it was even that I want from a relationship. What do I need? What do I demand? When am I settling? And when am I honoring my truth about love and connection and collaboration with a man? And, it's been an interesting journey. It really has.
So tell me this. You said you've been abstinent for 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
First off, wow. That's amazing right there. And second off, let me sort of ask you this question from this angle. Like, so I'm sure there's somebody that's listening right now that's saying in their mind, okay, she went from one thing where using sex as power, and now she doesn't have it at all. Is that because of the rape? Instead of you're looking at it as healing, they may be looking at it, well, that could be part of I guess the what's happening from the rape, or one of the products of the rape is the fact that you've totally given it up. It's absolutely not there. How would you respond to that?
I would respond to that by saying that it was a personal choice, and it was not a personal choice that I made because of the rape. It was a personal choice that I made because I was acknowledging every area of unfulfillment that I was experiencing in my life. And I believed that, in my commitment to God, in my commitment to myself, in my commitment to mining, the treasures that were inside of me, that was not something that I could do as long as I had this unhealthy relationship with sex. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it was just about, coming into this season of personal validation, self-validation. I will validate myself. I will explore myself, and I will find out who it is that I am. And incidentally, it's interesting that I'm just now on the backside of this thing, having discovered all these things about myself, coming back into a place of personal power, where I feel like I am worthy, where I understand my worthiness. I understand my value. I understand what it is that I have to contribute to the world, you know, to the kingdom, to a relationship, to myself. And so I did go through a long time where I felt completely powerless. It was like, if I don't have that tool that I use, that I knew how to, you know, show enough work that out with that, now that I've put this down, how will it be? Who am I?
Yeah, that's really deep. Really interesting stuff, and I really appreciate you for being so open and honest with us. Let me ask you this too. You mentioned earlier that at a certain point you didn't trust yourself, and you also didn't trust men. Do you still not trust men, and then do you still not trust yourself? Where's your trust level with yourself and men?
Well, I trust myself now with a man. You know, the thing that has kind of, I guess the newest angle on this is that conversation that I had with my girlfriend's fiance, and everything on me just, you know, my palms got sweaty, my feet got sweaty, and my underarms just, I mean, I had a bodily reaction. It was like it came up, and I could witness the situation, and I was self-aware enough to see that there's something here. I don't know what this thing is, but I need to explore this. And so, you know, around trusting men, I would say that I'm very fresh in that, because even fresh in that process of even realizing that I was still afraid. I didn't know that, you know, because I didn't know that I was putting my armor on. I didn't know that I was putting my mask on when I would know that, you know, there was going to be men in the scenario, or, you know, men in the area, or blah, 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 however it was going to be showing up. But I was just naked in that moment, you know? I mean, he answered the phone. I'm expecting her to pick up the phone, and bam. And so I'm fresh in that, you know? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I've asked for release. I'm willing to do the work, the emotional and the spiritual work around it, you know, come out of this space, because I'm 42 years old. I have never been married. I have no children. And I want to, I'm so ready to get past all the just crap, you know, for lack of a better word. I got a better word, but I won't say it here. But I'm just ready to get past all that stuff so that I can love and be loved without fear of abuse or molestation, or, you know, that there's some secret going on under it that I can't see, that I can't quite put my finger on. Because my mother and this man continued in their relationship for like another year or so. And I mean, I had to watch that too. And so it's just a lot. It's a psychological mess. And, you know, that's another reason why I think that it takes people so long to come forward, because you have to process all of that before you can give it a voice.
Do you think that that rape is what kept you from getting married and having kids for this long?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not have said that, you know, maybe even 5 years ago. But I think that had a huge contribution to it. 80%.
And I didn't ask you this earlier, but I want to know. You said you did answer one question that I had. Your mom and this man stayed together for about another year. What was your mom's reaction when you told her about this?
Well, my mother is very happily married to my pop now. They've been married for 15 years. And so, you know, at the time, I think they had been married 10, 11 years. So her reaction was, it was about me, you know, it was, are you okay? I'm so sorry, you know, that happened. I'm sorry that I didn't know. I'm sorry that, you know, I mean, she's just very apologetic, and, you know, they were, both of them, very accommodating, you know, wanting to know if I needed help, if, you know, there was anything that they could do. So me telling it with her in that happy, fulfilling place think was very different than it would have been had I told her, you know, in another season in her life.
Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to take everything in because this is just such a deep story, and you know, just hearing about somebody's story like this is, especially when you've never gone through anything like that yourself, it always kind of takes you back a little bit. You know, knowing what you've gone through your entire life, and also the thought process for myself is, you know, I'm seeing that, you know, before I'm married now, but before this marriage, I've had four.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before this relationship, I've had, you know, 4 failed relationships. And each one of those ladies, in some way or another, were either, you know, molested or somewhat sexually abused, whether it was by a boyfriend prior to me or whatever. And or somehow or another sexually manipulated. And it's interesting to see these things and to see how, you know, life has kind of evolved for myself, and seeing where other people are in their lives as well, and kind of lining up the similarities. Let me ask you this. If somebody is 14 years old, 15, 16, whatever, and you're talking to a young lady right now who is in your shoes. Maybe this has happened. She hasn't said anything to anybody, but she's still dealing with it internally. What would you say to her right now?
I would tell her to absolutely 100% pray about it. You know, pray about it and ask God for the strength, you know, God, by whatever name you call him. I'm a Christian, but, you know, speak to your higher power and ask your God for the strength, for the courage, for the healing, for the, you know, the that seed of forgiveness and, you know, self-forgiveness first and foremost, because it has happened, but it wasn't your fault. You know, I so believe, and, you know, this may be a super wide concept for somebody in that age group, you know, that teenage age group to kind of deal with. But I so believe that we are here for a purpose, that we are here for a plan, a purpose, and that God has a plan and a purpose for us, and that is, you know, preordained, it's predestined. There's a story in the scriptures where Isaiah, I think it's chapter 6, where, you know, he was talking about and taken up, and he was in the space of heaven. God was sitting on the throne, and, you know, God was asking, who will we send? Who will go, you know, to take on this particular assignment? And Isaiah said, send me. And, you know, I think that this is what we have done. I think that we are here in this life, and we are walking out on the path of love, and on the path of forgiveness, and on the path of trust and security, with whatever assignment we were sent here to deal with. And that assignment cannot come without tests. It can't come without trials and tribulations. And it can't come without something that, you know, really break the heart, that breaks us, to bring us back into relationship with God so that we can learn to trust him, you know? And so I would just say to her that your past is, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And you may not be able to see it as a gift now, but it is a gift. It is an invitation, because it is this process that will bring you into higher, closer, deeper, richer, more intimate relationship with God. People will always have a tendency to let you down, you know, because people are imperfect. People have their own stuff that they are dealing with. You know, it's been said that hurting people hurt people, and it's so true. And so, you know, we have to, oh gosh, and I really don't like the way that it sounds in this context, because I don't really have enough time to, you know, frame it and put it all together. But don't take it personally, you know. Don't take it personally. Don't internalize it. All shame really is blame internalized. So take it off of yourself that way, and, you know, begin to see it as a way to just come in closer relationship with God, with your Creator.
And following up with that, if still talking to that same young lady, what help is available for somebody who has gone through rape? And what should she do immediately after, if this were to happen or if it's already happened to her?
Find community, a rape hotline, a pastor that you trust, a pastor's wife, your mother, a sister, someone older that will, prayerfully not take a violent approach to it, because there's already been a rape. There's already been a violence around the situation. Really, seek out nurturing, seek out emotional support, seek out, just a loving, a soft place to land, seek out understanding. And I think that, when we really settle ourselves and, allow ourselves to really put on and embody our discernment and our intuition, we know exactly where to go. But as much as possible, don't shut down. Don't shut down, because when you shut down, you do go into that space of self-denial, and that it will find a place in the body to go and hide, and it will stay there until you go back in and bring it back up, and that can be years. But during that time that the incident is hiding in the body, it is blocking you. It's a barrier to entry to so many things that available to you in life. So I would just say, just find a soft place to land, find a place to share it and talk about it and cry about it, and, just feel around it. Don't shut your feelings down.
You're a speaker and a coach. Give out your information, so if somebody happens to be listening today and maybe they want to reach out to you or maybe learn more from you and how you've dealt with things on a more personal level, how can people get in contact with you?
They can reach me through the contact form on my website. The website is alainaodessa.com, ALAIA Odessa, ODESSA.com.
ALAINAODESSA.com. Thank you so much, Alaina, for coming on today. I really appreciate your openness and sharing this. I know it's probably still tough even after all these years, but this probably helped out somebody. Even if this is something that already happened, this could be something that maybe somebody who doesn't know, maybe this could happen tomorrow. They just happen to hear this and they know how to deal with it ahead of time. Or maybe it happened last week and now they know how to deal with it now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for even offering, for tabling it, for caring enough to put it out there,
Oh, it's. I think that's the point of this whole show. Like, you have to make sure that now that this is something that people are talking about, this is timely. This is something that we all need to have a discussion about. And I just personally think if we keep throwing things under the rug, things don't get resolved. And talking about things make things better so much so, and especially knowing that this is a common issue. I've known people that have gone through it, and you've gone through it, and I'm sure you've ran across other people that have gone through it as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.